Alright guys, what is going on? You are actually in my custom computing space here. I'm in my actual racing rig that we're going to be showing you guys sometime in the future. But for right now, we're actually going to be looking at my race. I competed in my very first race last weekend in the Street Stock Series down at Southern Oklahoma Speedway. And I got some good footage during the race. Unfortunately, during the last quarter of it, there was a piece of mud that ended up actually hitting the lens directly, and that was the end of the video, essentially, because you can't really see anything. So, but I'm going to go ahead and actually kind of do a live talk about the race along with the video. That way you guys can kind of see, and I can kind of talk about what was going on. I wanted to get more video of the race aside from just this first-person view that I got. That way you guys could kind of see more or less what was going on. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing the video here. Going into this, I was obviously very nervous about what was going to happen. You know, my biggest concern was making sure I didn't make myself look like a fool, but going out on track and just simply spinning out or hitting somebody else or causing a major wreck. I wanted to make sure I kind of took my pace, took it easy, got really comfortable with the car and the track and the people around me. And I really felt that towards the end of this race, I really got to that point where I could be a lot more aggressive. So before that, though, we were going to try and record, make a full episode out of it. We ended up focusing on just making sure the car was ready to go. I was ready to go. There was a lot we were trying to learn, too, with this being our first race at this track and at this series. We really had no idea what was going on. There was one time where we were actually doing hot laps for this series with the car, and I had no idea I was actually supposed to be out on the track. So I ended up missing the part where I was supposed to be going and doing the hot laps. So because of situations like that and everything that was going on, we really didn't focus too much on making sure to record, but I made sure that for the race itself, I went ahead and recorded. So we started out the night. I actually got to do a quick 2 hot laps on the track. The track was very, very slick. It was really wet. They just got done prepping the track when I did my hot laps. So when I went out there, I wasn't even giving it more than like 50% throttle because it was just doing nothing but spinning the tires. Then after I did that, they actually asked me to go ahead and carry the flag around. So it was really cool. My first time for the race, I ended up carrying the flag all the way around the track for the national anthem. Post picture of that here. We ended up doing all of that and then coming back. And like I said, I got lucky enough that even though I missed the hot laps, they let me do 2 quick hot laps, and then I got to carry the flag around, which is a really cool thing. After that, though, we went in, and there was the 2 heat races to determine your position. Of course, I made sure to start last because it was my first race. I didn't want to run into any specific situation where me being up front in any way would cause me to get into a wreck. So I made sure to keep my distance from everyone else. But I went to the heat race. I didn't get any video of that. It was quick, 10 seconds. It was pretty good. There was no major issues, at least with anybody else or myself. Like I said, I just kept my pace, kind of kept my distance away from everyone, tried to get really comfortable with the car. And then the second heat race, obviously that happened. I obviously wasn't in it. And then we got to the feature race. So right here, right now, we're sitting on the lineup grid. The race before us is just now ending, so we're getting ready. We're going to drive the cars onto the track. And I actually ran into an issue where while I was sitting there on track, I was contemplating on whether or not I was going to attempt to pull my helmet off because my earpiece, in order to hear the officials, had actually fallen out of my ear and was just kind of holding itself in the cushion in my helmet. And so I could hear when people were talking on there. I couldn't hear what they were saying at all. I could just hear that they were talking, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. It was just too far away from my ear, and the car itself was just too loud. So that's the first major thing I'm going to make sure to go ahead and fix for next race is getting a better earpiece. That way I can make sure I can obviously hear the officials. You'll see, I believe there was 2 or 3 cautions during this race that had happened, and you'll see that during those cautions, I probably lost 2 positions if I remember correctly. Because I just didn't know where I was supposed to line up, and they would announce the numbers accordingly to where you were supposed to line up at, and I just didn't know, I couldn't hear them, so I didn't know where I was supposed to go, so I just fall back and just let whoever wanted to pass me, and I just started from the back again. So you'll see here, we're obviously doing our pace laps. We'll go around one more time and then kind of get on it and go. Obviously, pace laps are nothing crazy. Everyone just kind of taking their pace. The one thing I will notice, I think at one point there was one guy that came behind me that kind of just jumped around really, really fast and kind of scared me a little bit. Of course, someone's messaging me while I'm recording this. Kind of scared me a little bit because it kind of just came up beside me really fast and kind of got a little bit too close, but nothing happened there. So here we go. We're going down the backstretch into the corner. This is when my nerves are at its worst, getting ready to start the first race. And so you'll see here the first couple of laps, I make sure to kind of keep my pace. I kind of start falling back here right before this corner starts, and I kind of let everyone go ahead and go. I get on it a little bit, but I'm not at 100%, and I'm kind of just letting everyone go so I can feel the track, see how comfortable I am before I really push anything. And you'll see in about 4 laps is whenever I really start to feel really, really comfortable with the car. And I kind of start to get a little bit more aggressive and a little bit faster in my lap times and my lines and everything. Here, like these first couple corners, I wasn't really getting too terribly sideways, and it was simply because I just wasn't throwing the car into the corner as hard as I wanted to. I wasn't setting the car up to go sideways through the corner. So, and you'll see everyone at this track kind of runs whatever line they want to, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. This track is actually really unique in the fact that you can run a low, mid, or high line and be fast at all 3. It just depends on your car's setup and how you drive. I felt like I was fastest running a mid to lower line through the corners, but a lot of the really fast guys, they were all running like really, really high lines. One of the things I'll say though too is in order to be fast with the high line at this track, you've got to carry as much speed as you can down the straightaways, obviously through the corners and the high line. And the major issue that I had was there's nothing stopping you for whenever you overshoot it and go off that corner. You literally will go airborne and flying into whatever's over that hill. So for me, it's kind of more, that's a nerve-wrack thing that I just kind of got to get used to. Once I get more confident and comfortable with the car, I know I'll definitely overcome that to where I'll probably run that high line a little bit more. So here you'll see I just passed one of the guys in the lower corner. It was fairly obvious that he wasn't necessarily too much faster than I was, so I just made sure to kind of keep my cool, keep my distance from him while I was passing him. You know, it was a nice, clean, easy pass, a lot like what a lot of people on iRacing are probably used to hopefully seeing. So coming up soon, I believe you'll start to see, we got the 22 right outside of me, that silver car that's right ahead of me. He actually does end up spinning out at one point, and I think that ultimately causes the first caution that we'll see. And then I actually think he spins out again and causes the second caution. So here in a couple laps, we'll start to see that. And this is around the time frame where I really kind of started to feel a lot more comfortable with the car. And you'll notice I'm kind of throwing the car a little bit harder in the corners. I'm really getting used to how the car handles and how I can carry the speed into the corners. I will say corners 1 and 2, what we're in right now, they're a little bit more slick than corners 3 and 4 were. So that's actually where you'll see a lot of the guys, I think, spin out was in 1 and 2. And I know 22 actually spin out in 3 and 4 at one point. But 1 and 2, throughout the night when we were watching some of the other races, a lot of people kept constantly spinning out in corners 1 and 2. And it was really slick for the whole night. So here's where the first caution got thrown out. You can see that the yellow light just came out right before I entered turns 1 and 2 again. That was actually for the car 22. You couldn't really see it because it just dropped right outside of frame. But right as I was going to pass him, I was watching him from the outside, and he actually spun out. You can see him right there. That's the exact same spot he spun out at. He spun out while I was right next to him, so I made sure to kind of keep my distance, and you'll notice that as I was coming out of turn 4 there, I made sure to kind of stay lower end in the corner. That way, I didn't really have any major issues. So here we go back and do our pacing. Like I said, this is where they were telling me kind of on my radio that was in my ear, or was supposed to be in my ear, what the lineup was, and I couldn't hear anything, so I kind of just kept my distance, and I made sure that when I was going down the straightaways, I stayed in the middle of the track, so if anyone wanted to pass me, they could. I wasn't going to try and block anyone in any way, because one of the things I will say about these cars, and if any of you haven't actually raced them in real life, they don't have any mirrors. So your field of view is actually very, very limited when you're on track. You really don't know what the guy behind you is doing unless you pivot your head. It never fails. It was going to happen. It was going to happen. I'll just cut it and then wait. I'm going to wait for the next restart. So it's okay. Yep. I just turned down my speakers. Alright, so we're going into turns 3 and 4 again. This is going to be the restart. As you can see, the 22 car got really, really aggressive there. I had no idea he was on my outside and was going to try and jump me like that, but that's okay. I kept my low line. I saw that him and that black car that's right in front of me were really going at it, and you'll see for the next couple of laps, they kind of go back and back. So this is something, if any of you guys are from iRacing and have done iRacing at all, especially at a rookie level, you kind of learn that when you see two people kind of battling like this, you want to keep your distance. Here I got a little bit ambitious. I can say the adrenaline was really starting to kick in, and I was really just in it for the fun of racing. So I went ahead and passed the black car. He's still on the inside of me in this corner, and you can see he kind of had that inside line. I kept that mid to high line, and then on the straightaways is when I just kind of get my speed. And I think this happens again for this next corner here in 3 and 4. He kind of stays on his inside. You can kind of see his bumper there just a little bit. And I keep going. And then I want to say it was either him or the 22 again. I actually ended up spinning out. That was later on, I think, a little bit. I think we actually do end up running here for a good little while. So at this point, my adrenaline is definitely kicking in. At this point, I've passed that black car. He's behind me completely now. And I've kind of got the 22 in my sights. I'm getting ready to kind of line myself up so that way I can try and pass him, hopefully during the straightaway. But like I was saying, the biggest thing that's really kind of hard to get used to is there's no mirrors in this car. So you only can see what you can physically turn your head to see. And, you know, with having a full racing seat and everything that kind of restricts your movement and in your field of view, that can be hard. That can be very hard. One of the nice things is, though, is obviously you're only turning left. And actually, that was where the 22 had spun out right outside of me. You can actually see that real easily. And if I remember correctly, I don't think they actually ended up throwing a caution because I think he was actually able to save it and keep going and didn't get in anyone's way. So keep going. Yeah, the light there is green. Keep going for this one. And I actually end up passing the 22 again later on before the next caution comes out. But as the cars are kind of going left, one of the things I learned that I kind of kept doing was, as I'm going sideways through the corner, I'll kind of look left a little bit and just double check myself and make sure there's not someone coming up against me or getting ready to try and jump on the inside line to pass me or something. Because without having any mirrors like you do when you're doing sim racing or something, you really don't have that view behind you to really know what's going on behind you at all. So that's where I really kind of got to get used to it. But here, after I had passed that 22 car and that black car, I was really kind of starting to get a little bit more aggressive. I really start to feel really comfortable with the car, so you'll kind of see me throwing the car in the corners a little bit harder, trying to carry as much speed through the straightaways as I can. One of the things I definitely want to work on in the future, I do feel like I can power out of the corners a little bit sooner, because I kind of notice when I'm coming out of the corners, I really kind of wait pretty late to go up to the straightaway. And I do feel like if I powered a little bit sooner, I can kind of get up to the wall at the straightaways a little bit quicker and carry more speed down the straightaways some more. I haven't actually hit my red line yet, so I know that my final drive still has a little bit more room to go in terms of top speed before I ended up hitting my rev limiter. So we'll kind of get there. But you'll see here, I try to be mostly consistent as possible. I don't really go too terribly aggressive. I'm just trying to make sure to stay consistent, and I start to actually catch up to the cars again. I think this car coming up is actually that black car that I had passed earlier. I think at one point he had spun out behind me, and that's why I ended up catching up to him pretty quickly again. So I do ultimately end up catching up to him, and I go in. I'm trying to remember where I passed him, but coming up here soon, I should be passing him. And then the car in front of him, I don't think I ever caught. Actually, I take that back. I totally forgot that this had happened. So yeah, that car in front of me, obviously, you could see him spinning out, and you could tell that was coming from a long ways away. It was pretty obvious that he was going to spin out at that point. And if you guys have obviously done this on iRacing, you'll kind of learn that. You'll learn to be able to watch a car and see when he's going to spin out. So I could kind of tell the way he was going to spin out. He was obviously up at the higher part of the track. He was going to be kind of spinning out towards the lower part. So I made just say mid to high, so that way I could pass him without having any issues. There he is still on the track. I made sure to give him enough room. I think I slowed down quite a bit here just to make sure that he kind of is able to get back out on the track and everything. And then I couldn't hear on the radio. I didn't know if I was supposed to pass the black car again on the outside. I went ahead and did it anyways. It looked like he was kind of giving me the room to. So I wasn't sure if I was supposed to pass the car in front of me. Like I said, I couldn't hear what they were saying on the radio at all. One of the things I also noticed is it seems like my GoPro, I don't know what happened. At some point, it messed up the GPS data, and it seems like there was like a section of it that it just lost because it stopped syncing after that first caution. Like none of the miles per hour or the G-forces or anything was lining up correctly. So something happened there, and then I noticed also the data stops earlier than the race actually had stopped. So like it lost a chunk of the race in data. So the first part of it's correct because it matches whenever I started moving and everything, and that was all 100% correct. But then the second part of it, I have no idea what happened. So like I said, without being able to really hear what the officials are saying or doing, I went ahead and stayed back. I wasn't even sure if we were starting here. Obviously everyone went ahead and kind of started, so went ahead, gunned it, got on it. As you'll see, that black car that I had passed earlier is now back in front of me, and unfortunately this is kind of where the video ends. Piece of dirt gets right in front of the car, or right on the camera lens, and you really don't see anything other than me passing that 44 car again. So for the remainder of the race, like I said, I really started to get a little bit more aggressive with the car because I really started to feel comfortable with it. I was really happy with how the car was translating, putting the power down. I was able to really just get the power down for the straightaways, and I felt like I was definitely faster in the straightaways for most people than I was in the corners. Some people were probably a little bit faster than me in the corners, but I think in the straightaways when I was actually probably the strongest. So overall, it was a great experience. I'm super excited to get back on the track. I'm really excited to go ahead and run again. Next event is going to be in about 2 weeks, and it's actually going to be a full 2-day event. They're actually going to be splitting up. I take that back. Against 3 days. There's going to be practice on Thursday, qualifying on Friday, and then a big race is going to be on Saturday. And it's going to be, they call it the Winter Nationals, and so it's going to last quite a while. I don't remember how many laps it is, but I want to say it's just under about 100 laps. So it's definitely going to be a lot longer than about a 20-minute race or sub 20-minute race. So I'm really excited to do that, and I'm planning on actually trying to qualify as high as I can. And I want to see how far I can push myself with the car. Since this is actually going to be the last race of the year, I'm willing to go ahead and kind of push my limits with myself in the car to see where I'm really at. Because if I break anything or have to repair anything, at least I've got all winter to do that to get the car ready for next year. So I definitely am, now that I'm got my nerves settled and I've got my first race out of the way, I don't really have any major issues with the car or anything that I want to work on. I'm really ready to run it and run it hard and see how aggressive I can be with the car and how competitive I can be. Because ultimately, it's the point of it is to have fun and be competitive. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. Like I said, you really don't see anything else. There is probably another good almost 10 minutes of racing here. But since I got right on the camera lens, unfortunately, you don't get to see any of it. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. We're going to go ahead and make sure to film much more of this next event that's coming up. We're going to actually do a full video of it, like outside the car, once we get to the event, everything. It's going to be a full special that we're going to do for this event. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell, let you know when we upload videos. We got a lot more of this stuff coming up pretty soon. I'm also going to be doing a video of what I'm sitting in right now, which is my racing rig that I race on iRacing and any of my other sim racing videos. I'm going to be hopefully getting some new hardware for that here soon, so once I kind of get all that in place, we'll be able to kind of do a really cool video on that, kind of show you guys how my rig is set up and everything. I'm pretty happy with what I got. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Got any questions or concerns, throw them down in the comments as always, and we'll see you guys next time. Bitches love cake.